We here.
We here now. We here now.
Welcome to my home. Yes. Hello, everybody. As you can see, it's a different setup for both of us.
Mhm.
We are actually recording 2 shows right now. 2 for the price of 1.
2 for the price of 1.
You know, if you're checking this out on our On Stage with David Choate, welcome. As you can see, we are not on stage. This is at home. You get a special at home edition. Maybe we'll make a whole series. You know, we record our show in a warehouse, nice and cold. So,
I got you. Nah, that's dope. I feel special there.
Yeah, yes. Thanks for being our first at home special guest,
For sure.
which is really nice. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Shawndale Thomas. You guys, I'm sure, are in for a great treat, but I say that with every single one because y'all are just some dope individuals that I get to talk to.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I mean, but this isn't the only show that we're taping here, right?
It's not, man. So we're also recording for the Headshot Happy Hour podcast.
Sir.
So the Headshot Happy Hour podcast is a platform that I consider my contribution to society, right? So I sit down and speak with people who are creating something, who are building something that is impactful for the community and for humanity, right? And you are one of those people. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, I'm honored. Because I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, I feel like you just stole my intro to you.
That's what's up.
Yeah. But I mean, I was thinking earlier about, there's an Angela Davis quote that she was saying, like, you have to wake up and tell yourself, like, I'm going to change the world. And you have to, like, really believe it. And, you know, I thought of that when I thought about our conversation that we were going to have today. Because I think it's people like you and what you're doing. We get to work together, just so you all know. Shawndale runs the CR8 Club at John P. Parker. And, you know, through Shawndale and, you know, the Kennedy Heights Arts Center, you guys, like, use Revolution Dance Theater to come in and teach classes.
Yeah.
But what I've gotten to see in just, like, your commitment to those kids, like, every day, and how you are so down to make it much more than an after-school program.
Yes.
And how you can tell when people are just there, you know, for the check, or just there because, like, oh, I landed this gig, or I'm just trying to get to the end of the day.
Yeah.
But, like, you are, like, what you're doing and the work that you're investing in, like, this Lion King project that I'm sure we'll talk about. Like, I mean, your vision behind that, I'm like, this dude is dope, and, like, you really are, like, one of those world-changing people. So.
I appreciate that, man. You know, I've never had anybody tell me I was dope in real life.
Oh, well.
That's dope.
You heard it here first, folks.
And that's my word.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Like, I think so. But, yeah, I mean, I want to talk about all that, but honestly, I want to just be able to have a good conversation with you. Because we always have these quick chatter moments, like,
we do.
Coming and going, and I'm like, just a sit down will be so cool. We really didn't talk about, like, am I interviewing you or you interviewing me? We just having a conversation.
Yeah,
folks.
yeah, and that's the beautiful part about it is because it's a conversation. So we give people a glimpse into the things that we talk about, our micro conversations daily. Every like twice a week, you know. But the things that I've seen you do, and the things that I've heard your stories about, some of the things you've overcome, is like encouraging and inspiring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why every chance I get to have a conversation with you about something, I think sometimes I even bring up some topics that are controversial just to see how far you get into it with me.
Yeah. Which I'm sure I never disappoint. You know. But I'm encouraged that you use the word inspired, because like that's what I wanted this whole thing to be. And like, just to set some context, like, even with going in and teaching at the CR8 Club, when I told you, like, my idea, like, hey, can we try to make it more than just a normal after school experience for the kids? Like, I have this idea called the Dream Project, you know, like, what if we, teach them dance, but set, like, some ridiculously high expectations and try to coach them and work with them and make it into this whole thing. And you were just like, yeah, sure. Like, like let's do it. And, man, that support behind just the idea is literally what like a person like me needs to be able to do anything to be able to do. You know, like it was all something on a piece of paper. Literally wrote you down like before it happened. Like I would like to work with this group of kids to try to accomplish this sort of thing, right? And for you to have that resource and provide the platform, you know, and be so game for it, I think is what collectively just makes it such a cool experience. Because the whole tenement, one of the whole tenements is that these little predominantly Black kids, right? That they see what they want, you know, or something, you know, and it might not be a dance. You know, everybody doesn't have to want to be a dancer, or a school, you know, coordinator or you know anything. But I think what people are seeing in us is, I like these men that are showing up, you know, showing up for us and caring about us and taking care of their business and running businesses and you know, who have like this job, but they also know how to do other things. Like I see you working with these kids with the photography and the camera and like the things you're teaching them, and it's just sparking such a big response. And like, do you let yourself sit in that? Because I'm there twice a week. You're there. Is it every day or 4 days a week?
No, every day.
Every day.
5 days a week. 5 days a week.
You know, I kind of feel like the fun uncle. I get to come in and just be like, all right, peace. You know, like, do you allow yourself to sit and really experience that magic of what you see every day?
So, so going back, I didn't realize the power that I really had in this project really until I booked you to come and teach the students, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And then it wasn't even then. It wasn't until I realized, because I didn't know everything. I mean, I've attended a Revolution Dance a production before, but I didn't know the magnitude of what I was, you know, of the opportunity that I had, right?
Yeah.
Until I had you come in and those kids started grasping what you were giving to them, right? So I have some amazing contractors that come in.
Heck yeah.
I got the dream team,
God.
right?
Yes.
I got the dream team. So when you ask, do I get an opportunity to sit in it? I think so. So.
Yeah.
Because I get excited. Like I get goosebumps about the idea. So it's almost like when you have a tool and you know what that tool is, you got all the confidence in the world. That's just like me when I go out with my camera and shoot. As long as everything is firing, once I get that first test fire and that is properly exposed and everything, I'm running with the shoot. I'm excited. Like I can have a person stand on their head for, you know what I mean, for hours and it's just coming out like wow, right?
Yeah.
That's what I have in the CR8 Club and the adults that I have coming into the program.
Man, you said something really powerful that I'm gonna have to remember, you know, because there are those days when like you're just tired or you're exhausted or you know, for us, we might have, you know, been in rehearsal or be in the middle of something and then it's like, oh man, like that afternoon time comes right in the middle of the day and it's like we've got this commitment to go teach, right? And so you come in, I know I try to like keep this is gonna be a great day with the kids attitude. Sometimes that's not always there on my end. And then, you know, you got to remember these are all like little people, you know, been cooped up in class all day, and their emotions and all over the place. And sometimes they're having a bad day, and it's like, oh man, we're just trying to get through this hour, get through these next 2 hours, or like, in I think one thing that you said is you have to remember this tool that you have, and I often forget that people like you and we have this tool that I thought everybody had, but I don't, maybe not, or maybe not everybody has realized how to use.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So that when they're giving off that negative, like, oh, this is going to be a bad day energy, like I have an opportunity to accept that and reflect it, like, and give into it.
Yeah.
But now I'm trying to be more conscious of like, okay, what can I bring to this to make this a win? You know, like before we just try to do business as normal and get into plies, like what's going on with you personally?
Yep.
Like, can I talk to you in a language that you understand?
Yep.
You know, and then get your buy-in, and before you know it, the music's playing again, and we're back into class. You know, and but it's like it's a tool.
Yeah.
But the tools we use every day, we don't always value. You know, it's not until you lose your phone that you like, oh, how much I use this.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. A lot of times, we don't realize that that we have these things in us, right? We don't know that we have these outlets. So
and they're special.
So what's really special about the CR8 Club is, we teach art. We teach a lot of different disciplines of art, right? Visual arts, performing arts, theater. But that's just the icing on the cake, right?
Yeah.
But the nuts and bolts of the program is the social emotional learning component.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Talk to me about that.
So we teach the kids how to regulate themselves, and when they're having a bad day, how to tap into that tool, which is, the other know-hows, the art, the creativity, the creative side, right?
Yeah.
But in order to really embrace those things, you have to have a certain confidence or certain things inside of you, right? And that's what the social
you have to have
part.
something in you, like across the board. And even as we're talking about like this particular topic about working in the CR8 Club, specifically at, again, I said earlier, what I would call like a Black school. And when I say that, we got to understand, of course, segregation on paper ended a very long time ago. But when you look at the effects of whether it was redlining, whether it was the racial wealth gap, all sorts of things that came into play as to where our people were concentrated in zip codes, and then you're only eligible to go to schools, according to your zip code. And mostly schools are one of the most segregated places. I say all that to say I've gotten a chance to work doing this type of work in like predominantly white schools, predominantly Black schools with predominantly all white staff, and what is so special about what I'm seeing here at John P. through the CR8 Club is not just like this amazing like staff of people that's led by like this incredible Black man that you've put together, but like I'm looking at Jason, I'm looking at really everyone, like look at this representation that's happening, but a step further, like how all of the leaders know how to talk to you and get through to these kids. And the reason I say it's special is because there are a lot of times where kids might just do something, or maybe just having a bad day, or just maybe they're communicating their feelings differently. And I've seen how instantly they get kicked out, how instantly they get shut down, how instantly they're dismissed. And I've seen in the same school where, maybe like the one or two like white kids might be like just really giving the teacher the blues. And I've seen them like get chance after chance. And I've seen them, just like, hey, like, or just the matter and the way in which, the manner in which they got talked to, the way in which they got addressed, I call some of these things on camera, I ain't really showed them, but it's just so I know I'm not crazy, that helped pull this whole thing together for me. Like, what is it that makes the program work? And I think it's not just after school program for the sake of accessibility, have a safe place to be. Like, we're real intentional about this experience. And the Tenements of the Dream Project, I think you like encapsulate so well. And it was like, you have to have effective representation.
That's it.
Effective representation.
That's it. Not just representation, but effective.
Yeah, and effective means it works. You know, so don't just show me a picture of success, but you need to show me a picture of success that actually looks like
working.
Me.
Or and it's working. Yeah,
and that works. That works for you, and I think that comes from intention, which is our second one. You know, we believe in intentional inclusion, and you know, I know you see me with the kids, you know, and I be telling them, like, what's your intention for today?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to learn this dance? Because now I'm putting the choice back in your hands, you know. And it's like, oh, I got some authority here. But then the reward that we get to give people after the fact is just so beautiful. So,
but I think that's what's important before any undertaking. A person has to, young or old, has to accept and acknowledge first that intention first, right?
Yeah.
Before we start the Create Club, we do a Create Club creed.
Yeah.
With I am statements.
Right.
And every kid knows that from verbatim, like word for word, right?
And they won't forget it.
And they'll never forget it.
Yeah.
And that is the message that I preach to them. If somebody is not saying that creed with authority, I'm stopping them mid-sentence, and I'm having the rest of their peers pick them up by saying it strongly and together in unison, right? Because that is important. Now, some of those words may be the only things that you can carry with you. When you're going through some rough times, when you're going through some things that can drop you to your knees, some of those words might be the thing that lifts you up that day.
And what people miss is we're not just talking about, like, it's powerful enough that, like, when you say things like when you're going through a rough time or the things that drop you to your knees, like, my initial thought was like being an adult, and I still remember those really important things that people told me all those years ago. But I also remember how impactful they were back then because life hit me pretty hard at a young age too. And I think we often forget. And when people ask me like why I'm like so passionate about, you know, certain areas of the work, or even when it comes to something like the Create Club, like why we wanted to put this level of intention behind working with these kids, it's because I think we forget, like, there's the ideal world, but then there's the real world. You know, ideally, we wouldn't have to talk to our kids about, you know, certain topics. Ideally, we wouldn't have to prepare our kids for certain things. The real world is, I know I got introduced to a lot of things, right or wrong, you know, at a very young age. You know, a lot of things, you know, being done to you, a lot of experiences that you see. A lot of times being in environments where you might be treated less than. I remember talking to the kids and letting them know, like, hey, I just want you to know, when, you know, anybody is yelling at you and, you know, are like a way in which they make you feel less than, like, that's not normal. Like, I want you to know that, you know, like, know that now. Because I know that they're getting talked to like that. I know that, you know, there's instances where we, you know, may suspect, like, hey, what are you going through at home? You know, things like that. It's so powerful to remember that the stuff that we're giving them, it could be changing. It could be life or death today, you know. And if you don't have that sort of background, and I'm not saying every person of color does, but if you don't even know that world, like if you think, oh yeah, I mean, it's just all flowers and daisies out here, you know, for a 6-year-old. Like, nah, there are some 6-year-olds who are being raised by their, you know, 12-year-old, you know, older brother while their mom's at work working a double.
Or not being raised. They raising themselves.
How about that? Yeah.
Yeah, like real talk.
And it's like we have an opportunity to give them something different, you know, in a way in which we understand. And I think that's what's so powerful.
Yeah. So one of my biggest passions for working with kids is just opportunity, right? It's exposure.
Yeah.
Right. And representation matters on all levels, right? Like, so honestly, I just want to be to these kids what somebody else was to me. Mm-hmm. So my mom made sure that I was exposed to as much as she could expose me to. And most of my exposure happened through the arts, right? Wow. So any type of etiquette that I received a lot of times came from something that I saw or something that I took part in. Right. You feel what I'm saying? Right. So exposure just makes a young person more well-rounded. Yes. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. I want
proper exposure.
Definitely proper exposure. Yeah. Like I want young people to have the confidence to know that they can sit in any room, right, and that they are enough. And the only way that they're going to feel that is by that proper exposure. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And having something to talk about, right? Even if you're an executive and you have a certain acumen or a certain knowledge of something, and I don't have that same one, mm-hmm, I have something that is closely relatable. We can find something, you know what I mean, in common, in a conversation or in a room, right? And I don't have to feel like, why am I here? You know what I mean? That imposter syndrome, like, why do I, you know what I mean? Like, how did I get here?
I was literally just thinking about that. And to clarify, like, what I mean when I say proper exposure, I think exposure is a word that gets thrown around a lot. I know it's a buzzword for a lot of organizations. Like, we're going to do this thing and we're going to give these kids this exposure. Yeah. And, you get a ton of money for it. But, earlier this year, actually, I went and I saw a show. I won't say which one. But, I'm trying to do better. But, they had these kids, it was two schools, two classes from two different schools, a significant portion of the theater, and they're watching this show happen, unfold for their eyes. Right. Predominantly white cast is fine. Shows in a different language for one, it's very classical art form.
Got you.
It was difficult for me to I can appreciate art now at 35 and being an artistic director, and even if it's not my cup of tea, I'm like, somebody worked really hard on this, or that's a really well-trained singer or dancer or performer, but I have to go through that, for me to sit through this performance.
Yeah, I got you.
So I'm looking at these kids that they've probably not been prepped for this. I don't know how you could have been prepped for this. Okay, I
got you.
And, it starts with, I think it didn't take, 10 minutes in before you see phone lights coming on. Yeah. You see the antsy conversations are getting antsy. Shawndale's show was almost 3 hours long.
No.
And I saw these kids start acting up. And I'm seeing the faces on ushers. I actually saw the faces on members of the, production team. It got to the point where two classes got up and left, during the show. And I was so pissed because I'm sure the conversation was like, look at these kids. Yeah. They don't know, or this is why we. Yeah. And I'm like, it's got to be proper exposure, because it's like we need to show them something. Yes, we need to awaken people's world. Yeah. But if I don't see anything up there that is remotely from my universe, I don't see anything that looks like me. Yeah. I don't see any of my story being told. I connect with nothing on this stage. Yeah. Nothing says this is for me. I think exposure in that has the opposite effect of what we want it to.
Yeah.
I remember the first ballet I saw. I hated it, for the same reasons. And it wasn't until I ended up seeing, I think it was Alvin Ailey Dance Company first, getting turned on to Dayton Contemporary Dance Company, and then discovering Dance Theater of Harlem.
Dope.
My God, who you telling?
We had them at the Art Center. Yeah, dope.
DCDC don't play. I danced with DCDC too for a season. So happy to shout out to Shauna and Debbie and everybody up there. But had my initial experience with ballet been it, I mean, you couldn't convince me that I would have been interested, let alone have a career in the damn field, you know? And that's why I'm like, I see so much, and I'm not saying that, you know, you shouldn't go see, you know, people who don't look like you.
Right.
But it is when all you see in these spaces, on these stories that don't tell your story, don't tell your side. Even when we start to put a couple of Black faces on stage, we talking about like perspective. Now we're talking about culture. Now we're talking about like how it's produced. Like, can I still find myself in it? Because I can be looking at a Black person up there and still see nothing
still
Black.
not,
like, and that's the part we don't talk about.
But that's the beautiful part about the story that we're writing. You know what I mean? With exposing these students to the art forms, right? So yourself and your team have such a unique way of teaching young people. Now, you can remember we had several young men that started in the program and then swiftly left, right? Some of those young men came back this year.
Wow.
You feel what I'm saying? It's all about the approach to it, right? And if you understand underrepresentation, you know how to teach representation. You feel what I'm saying? And so not only your organization coming in, I have several other instructors who come in and they do it in bite-sized chunks and make it fun for the students and make it consumable. You feel what I'm saying? Like, we have to, the only way kids are going to eat what we're feeding them is if we give it to them in bite-sized chunks and chunks that, like you said, they can relate to. Right? So, and that's what I mean by representation matters.
And it goes back to that social learning, emotional learning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Too. Like, it's really understanding, like, from a person who's like self-diagnosed ADHD, you know,
which is half our
exactly. You know, we didn't grow up in households that sent you to the doctor to, you know, figure this out, you know, stuff like that. When I started to really investigate, like, okay, so what works for the ADHD brain, you know, and I started leading with that. I started getting different results, you know, and I'm not saying that everybody is, but my point behind saying that was I had a lived experience that I started to see in other kids. So it was like, oh yeah, this information when presented to me this way, I tune out. Or I think we said it earlier, a lot of what we learn or what we hold on to get us through these hard times as adults are things we all learned as kids. When I learned that, I was like, but it has to be a way that we get them to get the information quicker. And what I mean by that, like, I think you've heard me say probably every time I teach, like, you're allowed to make mistakes, but just don't make the same one, you know, over and over. In like when we're doing the choreography and I'm like, you know, the people who can pick up things quicker, you know. But all these lessons that we're trying to learn as humans, really, that we're trying to like impart in them, like, we need to start taking and embracing that information quicker. Because it's those things. It's truly those things. Like, treat other people the way you want to be treated. Like, I feel like that's the same thing Black folk been trying to get through people's head, through our government's head, through our country's head, you know, through our bosses' heads, you know, for a long time. And I'm like, man, if we can, but on the opposite side, also, like, these lessons about confidence, these lessons about you do belong in nice places. These lessons about nice things, they can be for you too. You know, if you work hard for it, you know, you show up, like, you too deserve the world. You too deserve, not all of your performances don't have to be like in the school gym. Like, we can put you in places. Like, we can dress you up as well. You know, you're worthy of that. If they can learn that at this age, to the degree that nobody gets to take that away from them, like, that's what excites me, is sending some confident Black kids into high schools.
But you know what irritates me though? I mean, it excites me that we're able to offer these experiences to disenfranchised youth. But why? You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why? Because their counterparts across town don't have that same feeling.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? Their teachers don't have that same feeling of, we got to teach these poor Black kids, or we got to teach these underprivileged kids, or these underserved kids, or these, what's the other buzzword? At-risk youth.
At-risk,
and urban youth.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? They not having the same conversations.
In the conversation that I think they are having, like, or at least that I see in a lot of predominantly white programming, and not all of it's bad, right? But it's like they show up with this air of I'm the gift.
Oh yeah.
And so just by merely like sharing this experience, I'm gonna come sing for you, I'm gonna come dance for you, I'm gonna come, you know, you get to like do this drama exercise with me, you know. For one, again, it takes me back to that conversation around like, what type of exposure are we giving people?
Yeah, real talk. Yeah.
When it feels like it's coming from the outside world, then it makes me feel like an outsider, for one. When it never looks like me, to me, what I'm trying to get people to understand and see, I be putting words together, is it looks like whites only signs to me. When every time like we're shown like, ooh, we're going to expose you to this thing that's supposed to be so nice and so rich and so great, or we're going to take you on this field trip to experience this thing. But every single time I go, I see the same, you know, thing, the same picture that never looks like me. I think what we're exposing them is saying, this is what our world looks like. And I'm so glad that I could share this with you as we send you back home into yours. And I think what I've noticed, or at least what I try to bring into space, is not only let me come into your world, I'm coming in saying, oh, bro, I'm already here. Like, I grew up around the corner. Like, this game you're playing, I played it too. Like, oh, I see you. That hits different. That feels different. That gives you a different level of buy-in altogether. And I didn't really put my finger on it until this year. Like, really trying to document, like, why is this program working so differently? I really think, and I wanted your opinion on it, like, I think that's the secret sauce. Like, that's it, you know?
So that has been my secret sauce since I've been working with young people. I started working with young people in 2007, like, exclusively. That being able to relate, that relatability has been a factor. Like, even with my parents, I have such great buy-in from my parents because they can relate to me. You feel what I'm saying? And it's not like I'm that person that ain't trying to like prove that he ain't the Uncle Tom type thing. It's not that. Like, I'm really sitting down with parents while they're dealing with some stuff and having a real conversation with them about what they're dealing with. You feel what I'm saying? And giving them some context and just letting them know it's gonna be okay, and this is why. You feel what I'm saying? And that we talked about being organic at the beginning of the conversation, like just being organic with you know what I mean? Come here. You know that. You know you ain't supposed
Oh,
to
I've
be
seen
doing
that conversation.
You know what I'm saying? And you know, and the thing that I had to think about too, man, like, you know, I like to think of myself as being young still, right? I kind of like I do, you know what I'm saying? But then when I sit and I look at it and I look at some of the parents and he just on documents, I'm like, dang, half they age, or you know what I'm saying? Like I could be they uncles, like. So when I think about that, like I have value there too, because I can shed some light. You know what I mean? Like my daughter, my oldest is, you know what I mean, not even too far off from some of these parents' age. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. And when I think about that, like that didn't hit me till maybe a couple months ago. You know what I mean? When I thought about that, like, dang, that's why these parents they sit with me, or they call me and ask me questions, you know, personal questions. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because like I don't see myself that old, but I'm Unc now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, come on, Unc. Yeah. Walking into this. You know what I'm saying? But I think that is the secret sauce though, is that relatability, man. Like at the end of the day.
And those buzzwords that you were talking about, like that so often when they are presented in like these grant applications or in these programming things, they are the word for Black, like we know that. Yeah. And it's like, I'm glad that you're using these words, because I just want to invite like people to understand these simple things that we're trying to do. Yeah. So if Black is underprivileged, underserved, then let's give them some privilege. Yep. You know, if Black is underserved, just start serving them. And and that was like my whole thing, like why I am often, you know, someone told me a few weeks ago that maybe I just need to be more patient with the rest of the world. And I think what drives my passion, I would say, is the fact, Shawndale, I didn't grow up. I told you, the first ballet I saw, I hated it. I didn't grow up like with any interest in this field. Oh, right? Wow. Okay. Even when I started into performing and even like some form of dance, like it was definitely not ballet. Wow. Okay. I've never been a part of a ballet company. You know, all of these things that I would say make me totally unqualified. And if somebody said, you know, we've been working to, you know, better diversity in this area. We've been working to find ways in which, you know, dance can be used to, you know, kind of help uplift, you know, people in the Black community, or the arts can be used to do that in a real way. I thought I was going to be the most unqualified person to do. As Revolution Dance Theater is entering, like, at least a professional company, it's just in its third year, you know, right? You know, going into its fourth. And the impact that we have been able to yield, the lives in which we've been able to change, the economic impact that we have brought, and more so, the sense of pride and hope that we have given just by like presenting our company, which is made up of, you know, two teenagers, you know, and you know, just my brother Antonio, you know, two teenagers and one guy, one man, and led by a guy who has no legacy, history, and money. You know, when I look at organizations that have all of those things, when I look at organizations that have rosters and people waiting in the wings of like just really qualified athletes and professionals and millions of dollars and facilities and vans and resources and, you know, knowledge, and you know the history hopefully better than I do. When these people say we're trying, when I see diversity and equity efforts, you know how bad I want to go. Yeah. What's the effort? What's the plan?
It make you want to ask, what does effort look like to you? Yeah. What does trying look like to you, right? Yeah.
Because it literally was a project to me, to see. In my mind, I thought it should be easier. And I didn't think that it was a situation that was easier said than done. I thought it was very clear and simple in my mind. Like I said, if you want the Black community to not be underserved, choose to serve them. you want them to not be underprivileged, make them feel the privilege that they have as a people. Wow. And you can do that. You can do it overnight. We say these things like, oh, change doesn't happen overnight. If you decide to not be an asshole, change can happen overnight.
You know what's interesting to me? What's interesting to me is with the history that the Cincinnati Ballet has.
You know, I didn't.
And the lack of, You say what?
I'm just playing.
What'd you say?
I said, you know, I didn't call them by name. But you know, we out.
So this is what I'm able to do,
right?
On your platform,
exactly.
But you can't
I'm
do
on
it
his
on your
platform.
So with the history that they have, and the resources that they have, and the lack of representation, and usually major companies like that don't have the representation because they don't have access to us as much. Mm-hmm. But with you, they have access, and it's not like their executives don't know who you are.
Well, it's
so
not,
what I'm trying to figure out,
it's not even me though. Like even it's just an interest in Black personhood. Because you can hire Black people.
But that's my point. So that's my point is they know who the players are. And you need these token people. You need these token people. You feel what I'm saying? It would benefit you to have some of these token people, right? Yeah. Why not call on these people and bring some of these people in? I mean, I know they have their few sprinkles, but I'm talking about the real people. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. And well, I think what I would say is it goes back to intention, and it goes back to it's a much larger picture. Because like it was the reason it was important to me to start my own. You know, in the very early phases, when nobody believed that I didn't really believe I would have any of the success that we're having now, let alone the fact that we're just getting started. You know, there were many people who, they said it about Cincinnati Ballet, they said it about other companies. Like, why don't you just like try to come up under like another, you know, larger organization? Or why don't you, you know, push for change in, you know, an organization that has the resources to do what you're like trying to, you know, scrape together?
Because it's easier to do it from the outside than it is from the inside.
And that's it.
And you would assimilate.
That's the thing. And it was, I know that there are organizations that look like they really care. Yeah. There are organizations that look like they are really heavily invested in the Black community and doing fabulous events and programming in the Black community. And I know that that's happening at the hands of like a really dedicated 2 or 3 people. I know that, you know, they're the ones who are cultivating relationships and standing up and fighting against, you know, naysayers and standing up to power in boardrooms and, you know, fighting for budget dollars to keep these things going on. And I had to really think to myself, I could probably do that somewhere. But if I'm gonna work that hard, then I need to, at the end of the day, ensure that we're going to be able to properly serve people the way that we can. Because what I will say about, you know, I know plenty of dancers, you know, of color. Well, plenty I can't use as a, you know, by default. But I know many of the dancers of color, you know, at Cincinnati Ballet, right? Black dancers, we can just say. And I know their hearts, and I know their talent, and I know their skill. Like, it's not that they got the wrong people, but what is the culture of the entire organization? Yeah. What is the thing that we want to do? And I just want to take this as an opportunity to say, I'm a fan of Cincinnati Ballet, right? Yeah. This is not about Cincinnati Ballet. My life's mission isn't to wake up and attack this company. I could really care less, you know? This is about using dance as a microcosm for what I see when we go into these schools. Yeah. it's using that as an example from what I see when I go into corporate environments. And it's using that as an example of what I see when I turn on the news. We keep treating Black people the same way, excluding Black people from the finest of things. We're still not showing up. It's 2024, you know, and we still have all of these first this, first that, first, and it's like, for every time we're celebrating, I just always just want to be the Grinch that goes, and what took so long? Like, why are we celebrating this? That they got, it's 2024 and a company has finally given one Black person an opportunity, and we put them in the news and we take their picture and we be like, ooh, look how good they are. It's mind-boggling.
It is.
The standard, the bar is way too low for it to be this year. But I think that's the thing. I had to come to terms with the fact that, you know, I think Cincinnati Ballet's mission, at least the last time I read it, was, you know, something to the sort of like, they are here to give Cincinnati the finest or preserve, you know, classical ballet, you know, and that's their mission.
Right.
My mission is to use theater and dance to provide professional opportunities to African Americans, you know, to impact African Americans, to drive community among African Americans, to uplift African Americans. So it's gonna be baked in because our intentions are the same. So you can put a Black person on stage, you can hire a few more if you like. But for any organization, what is your heart and what is your underlying culture? And that's going to inform your marketing. It's going to inform your decision making. It's going to show up in your hiring practices. It couldn't help but to. So I don't need to read your diversity statement. I just need to walk around your building. That's all I need to do. It tells me everything I need to know. I need to look. I don't want to read your diversity statement that came out after 2020. I'm not interested in it.
Because we know
they throw that in my face all the time. Well, you know, these are legacy organizations. And what legacy have you left? With the 30 years, 45 years, 50 years, 60 years, you know, some of these organizations, 100 years. You got a track record. So I could care less about what you're saying. Your record shows you don't hire Black. You don't promote Black. You don't produce Black. It tells us everything we need to know. You know,
but you know, my thing about some of these organizations, even if they did hire Black, would Black be able to own Black? Or would Black have to assimilate?
You
feel what I'm saying? So that's that.
Could I actually be Black?
And so like what and what I mean by and everything don't have to be Black, but what I'm saying is this just an initiative, or is this something that we could actually build into your legacy? And a lot of times, no, it's just an initiative. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What we're able to do from the outside in, one of the best positions that I'm in is the fact that I'm Kennedy Heights Art Center and not. You feel what I'm saying? Because I'm able to make greater impact, I feel. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have to succumb to those bureaucratic rules.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying?
And may I say, like, I'm glad you brought up Kennedy Heights Art Center. Like, shout out to the allies and shout out to people who I've seen show up in like many different ways. Like in Ellen, when RDT was just like really starting, like it's grown through so many iterations. But we were actually right next to Kennedy Heights Art Center. It was one of the first like spaces that I got, and it's really weird because it looks just like the studio that we have now. It was just on the corner. It was an office building, just like the one, you know. And I flipped this office room into a really small dance studio, just like the really small dance studio we have now. But my point is, like, I just remember meeting this woman who, like, in my mind, like, and still to this day, like, you know, people just become more familiar to you. Like, I'm like, this is like this director, arts administrator, like, and she's got like this established organization, and you know, she just always was behind what we were trying to do. I remember she would invite the kids over to perform. We partnered on a couple of different projects. Was one of the first people to invite us to be a teaching artist, and it's all those things that even when like, yeah, I'm doing good work, or like I should be doing this, But when somebody trusts you with their program, like, and that's why, like, it means much when you say, hey, like, we want you to teach, or we want you to do this, like, because that's your name on it. You got to make sure it's quality, something like that. But she was one of the first people to do that for us. And, Kennedy Heights Art Center has showed up in a big way. It's another person like, Joyce Menominee, I think, with Cincinnati Arts Association, the amount of work that she puts in to make sure that places like the Aronoff Center and Music Hall become more and more a place that Black kids should know is for them. Like, she's very intentional about that. And the list goes on. Like Jefferson James, being very intentional and using her power as a white woman dancer, turned producer here in this city, to really start bringing attention to Black dance. And she was the one bringing, these really talented, just crazy good, like, Black dance companies into the town that otherwise we just would have never seen. But all of those people, like, I see, again, one person affecting change. Imagine if, and everybody doesn't have to take up Black as their thing, but imagine if more people were just able to look around and go, damn, it sure looked white in here. Like, how did we get here? Like,
we shouldn't have to kick down the doors
exactly.
all the time.
Like, because when I walk into a room and I'm the only Black person, I feel that. But I'm like, y'all don't know. Y'all don't even see this. Like, it's the norm.
It's the norm, and that's a comfortable space for people. Sometimes people just leave well enough alone. And we're just not those people to leave well enough alone. Now,
because it's not well.
Now, me, I'm quiet. I'm gonna make quiet impact. No, I'm gonna make quiet impact. But I'm gonna make impact. You feel what I'm saying? And when I talk about weaving into your legacy and the fabric of your legacy, I'm talking about those things and those people that you just mentioned, right? I'm talking about, like, sometimes it only take one person, you know what I'm saying? But it take that person to see it, you know what I mean?
But imagine if it was more than one.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. For sure. But the ones that aren't paying attention to it, they're comfortable in that space, and they're those people that they leave well enough alone. I'm about to rock no boat. I'm okay. I got this. I got, you know what I mean? As long as I'm good, you know what I mean? My people good.
And as long as we are quote unquote free, because don't they like to throw that up? Like,
man, listen.
Is racism really that bad? Does it really exist? Slavery was so long. And like, if you cannot take an honest inventory of the lack of progress that has happened for African Americans in this country, since really before Jim Crow, like, it just always takes a different shape. And to the degree that we're coming up to a presidential election year and the top candidate is quoting Hitler, and we don't think that this country needs to make a lot more progress.
Well,
come on.
People were sleeping on him anyway, because I told people years ago when he first started popping up, I said that he had Hitler undertones. Just his whole dynamic, his whole aura, the way that he was trying to rule. And then when the unfortunate happened, we really saw. And if you really understood the writings of Mein Kampf, you know what I mean? then you would understand that he took everything from that and he was trying to live it page by page.
Yeah. And it sounds extreme and it makes us sound like, far left or whatever. And but I think all of that is still a human, maybe, mechanism for survival. Maybe I'm trying to make it make sense in my mind.
No, it is. It definitely is.
So it's like where maybe our minds cannot allow us to fully take in every day what is happening right before our eyes. And it's like, to the degree that we are living right now in the time where, a whole country or a whole sect of people are being literally bombed all day and all night. And we are into the 20s of thousands of people who have died. But we carry on as business as normal. No matter what side you are on the aisle, you're afraid to say something because we can't really say anything anymore, even when it's right in front of our eyes, even when it's an atrocity.
The machine is that powerful, man.
It is. And so to suggest that a man is modeling himself after Hitler, even when he can say these things to you himself, even when he can stand on national television and say, like, I can go on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody right now. And, he knows that about himself. Because if maybe the mind just will not allow certain people to let it click, some crazy, unfortunate things have happened in this country once before. They actually still continue to happen. It just takes a different shape. And we can allow ourselves to go backwards if we let ourselves, but not on my watch, or at least not without a fight,
And that's it. That's it. So that's why I say, like, the impact that we're making with young people, we have the ability to shape minds. You know what I mean? The exposure that we're offering them, the quality exposure that we're offering them, we're able to shape their minds. You know what I'm saying? No matter what they go through, no matter what they see. Like you had made a point about, we're going to offer you this opportunity. We're going to give you this opportunity. Then we're going to drop you back off into your environment, right? I think about that often. So when I'm curating this whole program, I have those youth in their environments in mind. Yeah. And I don't know every kid's situation, but through a lot of their actions and just how they are sometimes, I can only imagine. Meeting their parents sometimes, I can only imagine, or it kind of gives me a glimpse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I'm curating this thing and I'm thinking about the people to bring in, I'm literally looking at how this person or this group of people interact with these kids, what their content is, like all of that, and not thinking about what type of impact they're going to be able to make. What type of conversations are they going to have with them? When you sit the kids down, or Jeremy sits the kids down on the step, and you have that come hither, or that come to Jesus moment with them to get them back together. Those are impactful moments. You know what I mean? That shape the way students think, the way kids think, and the way that they deal with their environments every day, man.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
But I mean, this has been so rich. Oh my God. Like,
it's a dope conversation.
It really is. And I always like to try to, like with the on-stage show, you guys know, give something that you can take from this conversation. And I think, Shawndale, you said it. Like the power of what one person can do, and it is as simple as showing up. Sometimes the hardest thing for me to do on those days is like, if you don't do anything else, you just got to get there. And it signals like, you are important. It signals. I remember when I used to be so cavalier about it, and I was glad like you slowed me down. I think after the first semester of like working with you guys last year, and you were like, yeah, we want to use you, but you emphasized the importance of like, it can be you or like whatever teacher, like, but we would like it to be consistent, you know, like don't just send whoever's available right now, you know. And I had never thought about how powerful that was until you brought that to my attention. And I see, you know, what is it, like 2 or 3 of us now? So they know all of our faces, but that they know us by name, and they know we know them. And they know that we've earned some degree of trust and respect and rapport.
That's where it begins.
And more than me caring about whether your legs are turned out, you know, they know that I care about them. And they know that about you. And they know that about all of those, you know, teachers that show up every day in a very real way for them. So my encouragement to whoever is watching this, listening to this, is just show up and be you. And don't underestimate the power of a kind word and the power of looking somebody in the eye, especially a young person, and saying like, you can do this. Like, and when they blow up and when they are having a bad day, you've got tools in your toolkit. Like, you can be the one to flip that for somebody. You know, you don't have to just dismiss them or not deal with them or say, why are you so loud? Or why are you always so like, maybe we got to start asking ourselves, why does nobody want to listen to my content? You know, do I need to deliver it in a different way? Am I the problem? You know, it's the power of just like what I can do as one human being and how that can ripple for other people is just so big.
Real talk. And my takeaway is intentionality. Like that word is like pulsating in my head, and I could see, I could visualize that word. Intentionality, man. So you have been uniquely intentional with everything that you have built, right? From Revolution Dance Theater to David Choate Productions, just everything you do, and then the way that you curate your shows, right, has been very impactful because of the intentionality. You know what I mean? You gonna make dance and the visual art and performing arts sexy. You are. You just got to keep going. So that's just that one thing about what we do is tireless work.
It is tireless.
Anything revolutionary is tireless, right? When I had one of the biggest, most barely men sit in front row at Hot Chocolate and had his eyes gazed and it held his attention the whole time. I'm talking about one of our hardest parents, man. And he said thank you at the end of the show. He ain't had no intention on going. But because of he was showing up for his baby girl. And it was one of them who performed too.
That's one of the things, I think it's actually written down somewhere from a couple of years ago. That was one of the things we put in our vision statement is like, that's our target customer, is that Black guy who's probably only in the theater because either he's on a date, his girlfriend said, I want to go see this, you know, or his daughter's performing or whatever. And he's probably planning to be checked out and on his phone, but he's the one engaged. And by the end of it, he's the one that's like, hey, when the next one? You know, like, when that happens, then I'm like, oh, that's a win. Like that's incredible.
So it's those little bits of intentionality, man, that is the most impactful, because that young lady will never forget that day. She'll never forget that day that her daddy got a chance to sit front row.
Wow.
Not only just in the theater, but got to see her perform. Man, like it's things like that, man, that I'm blessed to be a part of, and I'm super appreciative, you know. And when I sit and think about, when you say when I sit in it, I'm sitting in that moment right now, because I'm able to give opportunities to people now that wouldn't usually have, you know what I'm saying? And I have the grace of my executive director that say, "Oh, you got this idea? Go ahead,
go with it." Yeah,
we run with it until it don't work.
And that's the gospel I want to like make sure I'm sharing because of the nature of my work. Like it is loud because we have to sell tickets to shows and we're always creating something, so we have to keep trying to put it in front of people. But it makes it look like David and Jeremy or RDT alone or David Choate Productions is like single-handedly like trying to do all of these things. Like, nah, we're just the ones that are like, we are the loud ones, we're the show.
Yeah.
But it's you, and it's why we want to do the Dream Project. It's why I strategically wanted to have that presence on stage. Like the whole premise of this is simply shining a light on talent that already exists in this community.
Man.
Like if you notice, Hot Chocolate, I'm walking around, I'm greeting people. I'm just doing like everything you saw, every person on stage, every person that's orchestrating backstage, the costumers, at least that's on our crew, you're seeing what just a community of everyday Black folk can do.
That's dope, bro.
And it's like, oh, David, you did such a great job. I'm like, nah, he did that and she did that. And look at these kids from John P. Parker. They're the ones who did, and it's like, if we can just get people, like I say, if you only knew what you could do, like if I can get more Black people to go, like, oh, we can do that.
Yeah. That's what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. Well, I appreciate it, man.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate this dual interview too.
Yes, man. This is more than I bargained for. This is great. I think it's one of our best. Nice. I get a lot out of this. Like, but I had just told Jeremy, I was like, man, we're gonna have to film. I want to like make something to talk specifically about the Dream Project.
You just did.
And I was like, this is perfect.
You just did.
That's kill all the birds with one stone.
Yep.
2 interviews.
And this is, I think this is one of the better Headshot Happy Hour interviews as well, man.
And I think some sound bites from this, like partnered with the campaign, and then like showing off what we accomplished with the Lion King later this year. Like taking this school cafeteria and doing everything we can to like make it feel like a rich experience, make those kids feel like they about to do something.
I mean, I want the families and the community to come through there, and it's not even like they enter the school. For real, man.
Challenge accepted.
Oh yeah. That's how I feel about
right
this.
Up my alley.
So we had a production meeting today, and we were kind of going through things, and I'm like, my head was just swelling. Like, oh, and we need this. Oh, and we need that. And I'm like, I knew it was gonna be a challenge, but I'm like, woo, Shawndale, what you get yourself?
It's a lot, but like, it's so much fun to do, and it's gonna be that thing that of all the school plays that they've done, or things that they've gotten to be a part of, this will be the thing that you remember that year.
Oh yeah. This will definitely go down in a lot of kids' history books, even the school. You know what I mean? So
and then my interest is like everything that we were saying, like how we document that and start sharing it on a national scale.
Yes,
like. Because I think we need to have these conversations around why aren't there more First Black this in 2024? Because I was like, it's not a Cincinnati Ballet problem; it's a world problem.
It is.
Like those poor souls just happen to be the ones that caught my attention first.
Right.
So but like I'm kicking this Color My World campaign off, and that's just saying like, let's not stop at the stage, people. And then we started getting Black folk hired backstage. All right, let's not stop at the theater. Like, I want to go to the bank and see more Black there. And what the what's the executive level look like? Like who gets to walk around in a shirt and tie? And why we always got to be security and the janitors? And ain't nothing wrong with that. But what if we do want to be something else? Like I ain't never seen it. Like,
so and that's the thing, like because they never seen it, they didn't know that they can. Right? Like I gotta representation matters, man. That's all I can say, man. It does, man. So like that's what we want to do. Like whatever. It's a buzzword to say you can be whatever you want to be. Right. But how do I know that I can be that? Like I don't even know that job exists.
When you realize how unqualified a lot of people in positions are.
Oh my God.
It was like some click that I don't know if it was gradual, but like when I finally realized that everybody were just people, like I don't know what I thought people were before, and it's hard for me to like articulate how I viewed the world before, but like being afraid to talk to people, being afraid to say something because this person might not like it. And then like one day I'm just like, who the fuck are they? Like that's different than me. Right. I think that's a person.
I like to tell people that, and this is a whole nother show, but I like to tell people I've been everything from a bricklayer to a pie baker, right?
Yep.
Like I've had a million jobs. And I noticed that a long time ago, whether it was a part-time job in retail to an executive job with a top pharmaceutical company, right? Yeah. I've seen some people who have been in some positions that should not even be there.
Yep.
You feel what I'm saying? I worked under some people that I'm like, why the hell am I telling you this?
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Like you keep coming to me for all these questions and I used to feel real good, like when I would, we would have meetings and they would be real intentional about trying to get my ideas. And I'm like, man, they frame it like, you're at a place that celebrates you and values your opinion. And while all that may be true, at what point do we go, why don't I have your job?
Right.
What? Yeah. And then, when I wasn't like really getting promoted places or, I would get used for things, but I wouldn't get hired or, stuff like that. And I would see other people just kind of coming and cleaning up. Like it really made me second guess myself. But then it wasn't until I started working for myself and had to like do everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know how to do a lot.
Yeah.
Like, and not just like, just enough to get it done, it's kind of good too. Like, if I may say so myself. And I was like, oh damn, it was never good enough for nobody else, but it's good enough for me.
I've dealt with that before too, and it didn't have nothing to do with us. It don't have nothing to do with us. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so nepotism is a real thing.
Oh yeah,
right. Nepotism is definitely a thing, and I've seen it firsthand. I've been impacted by it, but I look at situations like I tap into my confidence that I do know a lot of things, right? Yeah. And I put myself in a position to benefit in that way. Like I've learned how to infiltrate certain circles and just navigate certain certain parts of work life. You know what I'm saying? That I don't know. I learned the talent in it. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing, infiltrate, and that's the one downside about like the exposure that we have now is I was able to fly under the radar a lot. Like, because I worked so many jobs, and like even within the same setting, right? So you take a place like the Aeronaut Center where I was a volunteer usher. Okay. I was a crew member, grunt crew member, like doing all the backstage work. I was then the house manager, right? So now I'm running this thing. And now today when I come in and it's like I'm just a producer and like when all the decisions have to be made about this project, like y'all coming to me. And but it's amazing to see how some of the same people treat you different at each level.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you already let me know what I am to you when I'm just a black guy.
Yeah. Ain't that something?
Yeah. You let it be known already.
Yeah.
So don't switch it up now. But now when I come in, I can tell when people are trying to put it on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't put nothing on for me. I'm still just the guy.
I respect that though. I respect because it's level. They say it's levels to it's levels, man. And so I appreciate that. Now there's jobs that I've had in the past, and I go back as a contractor now for some of these jobs, on the creative space, and they treat me different.
Yep.
They talk to me different. The conversation is totally different. Like they actually want to have a conversation.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's weird because when I had this same knowledge and was sharing it with you just as an employee here or, cleaning your bathrooms here.
Yeah.
It was not that. Yeah. No, it wasn't. Now it's like, oh, Shawndale, you know what I mean? We're so proud of you. It's like, well, you should be.
Yeah, you should be.
You should be because you fueled this. You know what I mean? And
I'm saying this to somebody. We so proud of you. You should be.
And I say that with the most humility, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a real thing, bro.
Yeah.
It is.
I think that's my new biggest takeaway.
For real, man. That's a real thing. But it's got to feel good to you, though.
Yeah.
It does. When people try to put it on for you.
But it's frustrating. And this is by, my normal go-to, people still yell at me because, I just show up to spaces just like this, and don't really care. But, more so, my normal is a hoodie, probably black, and probably some black sweatpants or whatever. And probably smell some type of green somewhere, and it's very interesting when I show up to places and I just observe how long it's going to take before you say anything to me, how long it's going to go. And I love it when it is the spaces where I'm the client or we're about to rent somewhere or, something like that. Or it's happened a lot of times with the bank. I remember I went in with this white woman and they just kept addressing her for all the questions, and every question they asked her, she would turn to ask me because it's my business.
Right.
And it's so how many questions later before you ask me?
Right.
It's a fun experiment for me to just see how people, I want to know how you are before the tie demands your respect or before I walk in and say, I'm blah, 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 blah. I just want to know how you are.
I sat in a whole business meeting one day in the role that I'm in now, and nobody said nothing. They didn't direct any questions to me, like you said. And when it came down to approval for everything, it was so we just need the director to get approval, and nobody said nothing. And I didn't say nothing. I just sat there, right?
Yeah.
But then I was like, all right, so I'll let you all know. On Monday. I'll let y'all know on Monday. And everybody looking so how is it that y'all don't know who I am?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You didn't want to. And you're talking around me?
At a panel that I was one of two people on the thing to talk. That's everybody's here to see these two people talk. It's a conversation between David and the amount of people that so I'm talking to this person, right? And they would walk up and they would just start talking to him and oh, blah, blah, blah. And then they look and, he would oh, and this is David. Oh, who are you?
Right.
Oh, are you with the ballet? Are you this? Are you that? I'm no. I'm oh, I haven't heard of you. You don't even know why you're here. I'm about to speak to you.
That's gotta stop, man.
Yeah, and some of those same people though, it was more than just a genuine, oh yeah, don't know. You can tell the air of oh, I'm talking to this mega star, and oh, who are you?
Yeah.
And I swallow it.
Yeah, and I do too, because You know what, man? At the end of the day, it's like I'm here to get a job done.
Yeah.
And as long as we get that job done, I really don't.
And that's the thing. I don't need to be the star.
Yeah.
But I just want the respect.
Yeah, for sure.
It. Yeah, like
for sure.
You ain't got to kiss my ass, but you will respect me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And if I'm at the table, I'm at the table for a reason.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing, right? I'm not just sitting at this table because I just came in off the street. Like,
and that's when I started speaking up. To be honest, because I used to be really quiet in meetings. I think a combination between getting busier and then I was listening to a podcast and somebody was talking about like in these meetings, like everybody putting meetings on your calendar and and it's like if you're in a meeting, you are there for a reason. Yeah, you know.
Let's get it done.
So don't waste your time. Yeah. So if you have something that you're thinking, you're in that meeting to say it.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was like a mind-blowing thing. Because we go to meetings and then we all leave and then we all talk about the meeting. Like, man, I can't believe, or, oh, I don't. But ain't nobody say it in there.
Right. I've been in meetings like that. I've been in meetings like that. You know, and then I've been in meetings where it's like, why are we having a meeting?
Right, yeah. I tell you now, if I can't get the agenda ahead of time, like, what is
this? Really?
Like, oh, yeah, especially if I don't know what's up, like, I need to know what's going on here.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I'm no longer walking into, a situation. One, if I don't need to be there, I'm not going.
Yeah.
But if I don't know what questions are being asked, like, what do I need to be, prepared for, stuff like that. But you realize that's what they do all the time. Like, these people are not having meetings without the meeting before the meeting.
No, they're not.
And I was like, oh, there's a meeting before the meeting. Well, I want that invitation.
That's right.
Before you give me this.
Because a lot of the decisions, oh my God, a lot of the decisions is being made.
Exactly. You've already gotten, like, we just going through formalities.
Yeah.
Like, why am I here? Yeah. So invite me to that meeting first and then I'll come. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's what's up, man. David, man, this was good. I appreciate it.
And we got a little after show special.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm growing my audience. It's slowly growing. And I don't have an audience. I got a community that I'm growing.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything. So not only do I do the podcast, but I do a quarterly event where I give free headshots and free
you told me. Yeah.
So
when is that this year? Do you know?
So the next one will be in February. I had to push it to February because I just worked a deal with another company to do monthly headshot happy hours. So we making impact.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
We making impact. So so it's gonna be in February. I don't have a date yet, but it's all about building community because my thing is just like we are speaking to two audiences today, we are cross-pollinating audiences. You feel what I'm saying? Because who you can reach, I can't reach, and vice versa.
It's the same thing. Like, we don't have this bustling audience for any of this content I just be feeling like God, he's gonna let people see this.
You do. You just don't see it yet. Nah, we speaking
listen, we be spending all these hours on these goddamn videos, and then I go back, it be like 8 views. I be like, God damn it!
So what I've learned is not to chase the views.
Right, yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, it will come.
And I learned that sometimes it's one thing that takes off.
Yeah.
And then people go, oh, who is that? Yeah. And then they start watching all that.
Go all the way back. So that's how it was when I first, I got hip to a podcast crew out of Atlanta over during COVID, right? And man, I was so in tune to this person's content that I went all the way back when he started in 2007 and just watched all of those videos. And I watched just how he matriculated, right? And he just got better and better. I mean, it was crappy videos, like horrible. And he would even say it, you know, and that's kind of what sparked me to go back. But it was still impactful. Yeah. It was still impactful content. It just didn't look like it looks today, right? And that's a testament to everybody's journey.
Yeah.
Think about how crappy your very first production might have been in your eyes today.
Oh, right? Still. But it literally is about representation, because it took me watching Kevin Hart, who I love all the things that he does, like his podcasts, his books, his stuff like that. And when he was saying, like, you just got to do it.
Do it.
Like, all this shit I'm doing, like, is because I one day woke up and was like, well, I'm going to just do that too.
Yeah.
And I was like, when he said it, I was like, well, if he can do it, then maybe I will. And then when he was talking specifically about podcasts, he said it, Tabitha Brown, like making all these videos because her daughter said you should, you know, and he said videos ain't going to take off. And then it was that one.
Right? And it wasn't, but it wasn't the very first one or the very first 5, right?
Yeah.
It probably took 100. And so that's what I'm working on for 2024. And I just hit the mic. That's what I'm working on for 2024 is being more consistent and showing up. You know what I mean? Even when I don't think it's going to work, just doing it.
And God showing me, like, I got to prepare my house first. Like, I think there's a reason. Like, I think he's kept me in hiding. I think there's a reason there hasn't been that big viral blow up or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, for one, it's not about the views or things. Like, I have to remember the influence. My only interest now, and I can prove it to you, like, I wrote this in a grant. Like, all of this that's happening now, I wrote all this shit last year. Write the vision, make it plain. And I said, I was not this popular on social media. I didn't care about social media. You ain't never seen me doing a live video. I wrote down, we are going to be intentional about social media, blah, 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 to garner an influence to change the world. And it was like, if I can get a community of people behind me, like bigger than Cincinnati, like a community of Black folks to go, you know what? You right. You know.
And you know,
can you imagine?
I can imagine. Oh my God. And here's the thing. I can almost guarantee you that it's going to happen outside of Cincinnati.
Wow. Yeah.
I can almost guarantee it's always that way.
It's always
it never happens in your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about some of the biggest support system. Some of the biggest supporters that you have may not be your own family.
Oh, yeah, nah, yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
And it's always that way.
It's always that way. So, and I say that the same way about the city. Like,
because I be feeling like I'm really going crazy here. I be like, maybe it's not good. Or maybe it's not.
So it's important for us to be here. It's important for us to do our work here. But our biggest supporters may come from people that we probably never will see. You feel what I'm saying?
And I think that the point I was making is I still have this to do.
Oh yeah.
Like literally showing up to John P is like one of the most grounding things in my week every single time. Because it's like the world be so fast and so crazy, and I could be coming from doing like God knows what, and it's like you gonna go spend 2 hours with these kids. You know,
slow things down.
And it does. And and I honestly don't always want to. I'm like, oh man, like But every single time I feel better. Every single time by the time I'm leaving, I'm like, those kids, like I'm like, this is what it reminds me, like, this is what I'm working for. It's the same feeling I get with my family. Yeah. Like, cause family stuff, unfortunately, like, it'd be falling to the bottom of the radar
because of work. Yeah,
I intentionally don't have kids. I intentionally don't date, like, so I could be free, you know. Yeah. And so I just be like, oh yeah, I don't have to do all this stuff. But then, like, when I have to go to something, I'm like, man, I wish
I enjoyed this.
Right, like I love my fucking family. I have a dope family. Like, why don't you do this more often? Is like the question. But you forget. Like when you step away from that world. But so again, that John P, those 2 hours and it's real good because that's what it's all about. You know?
Yeah, real talk. Yeah, that whole family thing, I made it my goal last year to be more intentional with spending time with family. Man, you want to think about it, man. People was leaving here, bro, like at a rapid pace every day. You feel what I'm saying? And I had this come to Jesus moment last year, around the fall, and it was like, oh, you got to start spending more time with family. You know what I'm saying? And the biggest part was my kids. Like, so our relationship had got a little distant over some years, and even though my kids lived with me, it still was, I don't know if it was because they were coming into adulthood, or I don't know, but it was a transition. You feel what I'm saying? And I said I have to be more intentional. So I started with one activity and just tried to just make sure that I was consistent with that. You feel what I'm saying? And it feels better this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's important. Those are the things that's important. This work is gonna be here. You feel what I'm saying? We already established. Yeah, for sure. We established the impact that we can make and that we do make. It's done. We established that. Yeah. So now we gotta take time for the things that's important in our lives too.
And be present. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I will just be on autopilot trying to click and cross like and realize that I haven't been a human at all.
Talk. So. We don't want to get away from that, man. So appreciate you, brother.
Hey, yes.
Thank you so much, man.